Hello, you're watching Guitar 101 Rammstein. New Year's Day here, 2020, new decade, so Happy New Year's. I decided to start redoing some of my older videos because some of them go back to 11 years. And obviously the technology has improved, video cameras improved, stuff like that. So I will be redoing some. And if there's any of my older videos where the quality is just not desirable or you'd like to see them redone, I'm open to suggestions on that. I will keep those up for now, the old ones, and I'll just, I'll update the description with if there's a link to a more current video. So check those if you're looking at any of my older videos. Anyways, in this video I want to go over some of my top tips for getting your chord changes smoother and quicker and learning how to change chords for beginners. But also if you're playing for a while, there's some tips that you might not know yet that are going to help your chord transitions. One thing I'll hear people say is to get your chord changes down, you got to practice. That's true, but you got to practice correctly. If you practice wrong, you're moving wrong. You're gonna be going nowhere fast. So the first tip I'm gonna give is probably the best one I've ever learned for chord changing. It's learning the movement and learning what's called muscular memory. So you're learning a reflex to grab the chord. Because the biggest mistake I see people do when they're struggling with chords, I remember doing this as well. I remember having a hard time with G to D when I was first starting. And I kept practicing it, but I wasn't getting anywhere. And I was moving incorrectly. Because to make a chord change, you got to grab the chord and jump to it one step. So a lot of times people are getting this habit of grabbing chords like in one finger at a time. So for the D, I was going like 1, 2, 3, and I want to be able to just grab that chord. So this takes a little bit of patience, but this is the best way to learn it that I found. And what I'm going to do is we'll take two chords. For an example, we'll take G and D. And at first, we're not going to strum at all. We're just going to focus on our fretting hand. We're going to visualize that chord. So I'm looking at these three notes where my fingers have to go. And I'm going to go slow on purpose at first. And you want to go slow for a little while first. And take as much time as you have to. Just the important thing is your fingers all land at the same time. Grab that chord, hold it, and then slowly move to the next chord, visualize it, and put the fingers down at the same time. Now, repeat that several times, but don't speed it up. Go very slow at first. And your fingers and your hands are learning that muscular memory, just like people taking karate learn their forms, stuff like that, You're going to transition between each one until it starts feeling easier and more natural, and then speed it up a little bit, still not strumming. And just kind of keep going through that, slowly speeding it up, getting that movement down. And then you can try strumming. Try something real just simple, 4 strums on each chord. I highly recommend using a metronome when doing this. That's going to help you, because it's very easy to accidentally slow down unintentionally just to make that chord change easier. So if you're finding you have to do that, you're probably trying to do it too fast. Go at a slow tempo. There's nothing wrong with playing slow. It's important to be on tempo. So that metronome is really going to help in that case. And I mean, try this with any chord change that's giving you a problem. But I recommend sticking to 2 chords at a time to learn this. And sometimes if there's a song I'm going to play that has a hard chord change in it for me, I'll warm up that way before playing the song. And that makes a big difference. All right, so I got to look at my cheat sheet here. Now, another thing, all chord changes are not equal. There's some that are extremely easy. At E major to an E minor, we just lift a finger. But if we're focusing on, let's say our open chords, I think the hardest one for most people, and for me as well, is going to be G to C. And we're looking at 2 things that have to happen for that. There's all the fingers have to move, and it's also this kind of awkward change for the wrist. So some people, those chords are back to back all the time. So if you play enough songs and get enough practice playing those chords, they will become easy. But I think out of all the open major and minor chords, that's probably the hardest change to do. So this exercise as well is really good for that. But there's a couple little tricks I'll show you too. They're kind of like cheating tricks, but they work. This doesn't always work, but a lot of times you can get away with it. So say I got to do this G to C, and it could be pretty quick where I'm just not nailing it. Now it depends on the song, but a lot of times you can cheat, and instead of using a C major, use a C add 9. And from a G major, if you hold the 4-finger version, so the first string, 3rd fret, second string, 3rd fret, and then the rest like the 3-string version, or 3-finger version, I should say. Now all that happens to happen is these 2 fingers just go straight down for that C add 9. So you can hear it's different when you know a C add 9 compared to a C major. It's adding in an additional note that harmonizes with it. But in most cases, you can get away with this. See, it does sound different. The hardest time usually you'll run into problems trying to use something like this is if the chord's not just strummed and it's arpeggiated. So we hear that difference because we're hearing the notes one at a time. But like if another guitarist is playing a C major and I play a C add 9 over it, they'll harmonize. You can get away with it a lot of times. Another trick, kind of cheating, but it's not. It's part of playing, but you don't want to use this so much as like a handicapped, where you can only do it this way, but this can help on some of the more difficult chord changes. And that's putting a rhythmic stop to the chord at the very last strum before your change. Again, I'll use, let's say, I'm going to use G to D again. And I'm going to strum 4 times on each chord. And you're going to hear after that last strum, I stop the strings with my right hand, with the flat part of my hand. And that makes that nice clean transition, because technically we can't just teleport our fingers. We're trying to get to it as fast as we can. But if we do that stop in a rhythmic way, it's not just like abrupt or random. That can also sound good. So we can get like... So that can help as well. Another one is like... It's hard to explain this one. I'm kind of cheating in this method too, but sometimes I do it. It's not really cheating. I mean, sometimes I'll use this. It's just the sound I want. So I'll take a chord progression, and what I'm going to do is at the end of the last strum, I'm just going to like kind of hit open strings. Not all of them really. It's just kind of a light thing, and it kind of makes the chords blend together really nice. So we'll do it with a chord progression. So that's another little trick you can do that helps. The last thing, and also, I mean, depending on the chord, I see people sometimes changing chords like an A minor to a C major. And you see, it's just one finger that has to move. So always try to identify that in chords. Sometimes you can change the way you hold a chord. Like if you're holding E minor like this, and you're going to a G, instead of moving all those fingers, hold the E minor like this, so that index finger is already in place for that G chord. Less movement, economy of motion, that's going to all be very helpful as a guitarist. So look for what I call pivot points, any finger that doesn't have to move, and make sure you're not moving those fingers. Because I've seen this a lot of times where someone's playing an A minor to a C major and they go like, and lift all fingers to change the chord, where you just have to bring one finger up and over. So that's another one to watch out for. Finally, I'm going to go over one more exercise that is really helpful. I learned this from a Joe Satriani video, and he showed this kind of like this go-to exercise if he's really in a rush and has to warm up quickly. This is really good, especially for those awkward chord reaches and kind of just warming up. What you're going to do is take like a diagonal shape. I'll go for the middle strings, so I'm not using the E strings. So I'm going like fret 5, 6, 7, 8, like that, diagonally straight down. And then we're going to switch it this way diagonally, so fret 8, 7, 6, 5. You're going to jump around like that. You're going to move it around and just do it really fast, all right? If you're taking the time to get all the fingers in place correctly, you're doing it wrong. You want to do it fast. It's going to sound horrible, but you'll see it makes a huge, it's a really excellent warm-up that you get results out of really fast. And this is also a good warm-up for a song that's going to have difficult chord changes, because we're really focusing on those awkward angles here. So I'll play through it real quick. It's going to sound horrible. I'll warn you in advance. And like I said, I'm just grabbing as quickly and wildly as I can for those chords. I'm really wanting to get that extreme wrist movement. It sounds ridiculous, I know, but it really works. That's an excellent one. And finally, the last point I'll get to is when strumming chords. This goes back to where metronome's going to really help. I see a lot of times people practicing a chord change, and they go like something like this. And that right hand slows down for this hand to catch up, and you're sending like a mixed signal to your body, kind of saying like, oh, it's okay, I'll wait for you. That's going to screw up your tempo. So try to keep that right hand like a clock, just never stopping, never slowing down. Even if you miss your chord, that's all right. It can sound like this at first. And your fingers are struggling to get into place. When you do that, especially if you're going slowly, you're going to realize a lot of times you're repeating the same mistake. So you could find like, hey, it's this ring finger that's lagging to get into place for that D chord. That'll kind of, when you go slow, you'll catch that stuff. Then you know what to change in your practice. So your goal is trying to get that ring finger to cooperate, So try to keep that right hand, go slow, but keep it constant on a tempo. So don't let it stop, don't let it slow down for that chord change. Even if you make a mistake, just keep that right hand going. Slow it down a little bit more if you have to, but that's really important. And those are the top tips I could give you for learning how to make your chord changes easier, the transitions smoother, and just making them sound better. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Hit like. Leave comments. I'm always pretty good to answer those lately. And I'll be doing some more videos, so any request I'm always open to entertain. Until next time.